Good evening, everybody. Hello, Pam. How are you? Hear me?
Hi, good evening, Vinny.
I hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Mike Marciano. Hey, how you doing, Mike? Uh, First of all, I want to introduce my new co-host, my only co-host, Pamela Roth, former assistant district attorney, uh, criminal defense attorney, civil defense also, and a funny lady. And she's going to give us some legal advice tonight on certain issues. We have Joe Occhipinti in the background. He'll be coming on shortly, and he's got a lot to say about the National Police Defense Foundation, which he's the executive director. And Pam, I'm going to ask you a couple legal questions. One thing that I noticed that one of the jurors on the Ghislaine Maxwell case came out and said publicly that he did not disclose that he was sexually abused when he was a child or many years ago, and he came out afterwards. Now they're talking about doing a retrial or having the case thrown out and having a new case because of that. What do you think about that?
The fact that who came out? I couldn't hear
One
you.
of the jurors
Right.
came out and gave an interview and said that he did not disclose during the voir dire
Oh,
that
that
he
he was
was.
sexual.
Yeah, and he told the jurors during the deliberations about it, and it could have swayed them to vote her guilty. And now she's probably guilty. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think she's guilty anyway. But now she's got an excuse to have a new trial or to have it overturned and start all over again.
It could. I don't think that's a grounds for it. I don't
No,
think that would be a ground for it at all. You
well,
know, the fact that
she's got some high priced lawyers. They're going to make a big deal about it. You know that.
well, they could try doing it, but I don't think that's a reason to reverse the decision of the jury for a retrial.
But haven't other trials been reversed for stuff like that, where the jurors did not disclose all the information?
The question would be that had he disclosed that information, would that have changed the verdict, or would there have been a different juror on there?
Well,
We don't
that's
know.
what they're saying.
I would think it's really going to be in the discretion of the judge if they're going to be
Yeah.
filing an appeal because it's going to go to the appellate division.
Well, you
You
know
know,
it's going to go to.
depends on what the caseload is for.
She's looking at life in prison. She has the money to pay the lawyers, and she has the money to go to the appeal process.
Had a little difficulty hearing it.
Uh, um,
You know, if they're going to file the appeal, they're going to look to obviously submit everything
right.
and then see what it is that the judge is going to decide. I don't know if that's enough for them to look to reverse it, set aside the verdict, and then look to have a retrial on it. I don't know if that's enough of a basis.
It's gonna. It's part of the criminal justice system. Am I correct? That's part of the appeal process. Is part of the criminal justice system,
Of course,
and
listen, you
and
know,
and they're going to
anytime
use every means possible to get her off.
is a high profile case. The whole bottom
Now,
line is
the
they were
other thing
using
is,
her.
this juror has hired an attorney to represent him. Why? Why would they do that? Why would he do that?
I think he's definitely looking to protect himself.
Right.
The only thing is, give me 1 minute. I have to jump off for a second because I'm having some technical difficulties on my end.
Okay, then let me continue on my end.
Okay.
Okay. We talk about law and disorder. And we have a lot of issues every day. If you read the newspaper or you listen to the news, there are crimes being committed left and right to everybody. It's even affecting the rich in Beverly Hills and the rich communities. Matter of fact, two congressmen and congresswomen were carjacked. One was near in Washington D.C. and one was I think in Virginia. What is going on? I mean, we are in a situation where it's like the Wild West. Now we're also going to talk about this Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who actually was offended that that the people actually questioned his intentions with the memo that he sent to all the prosecutors, not to prosecute certain crimes. And a case in point, yesterday or the day before, a young man robbed somebody with a knife, and they gave him misdemeanor, let him out, no bail. What is going on now? People are afraid to travel on the subways. The subways. I understand the ridership has been less, not because of COVID, not because of that, but because of the crime. People are getting shoved off the platforms for what? For no reason, because you got people out there that are mentally challenged. I'm going to say that mentally challenged, and they should be in a shelter. They should be in a home. They should be in a hospital, not walking the streets. Now, uh, Mayor De Blasio's wife, Ghislaine, started a thing called Thrive. She got almost $1 billion into that organization to get people, help people like that. What have they done? They've done nothing. They have centers in the in around the 5 boroughs that are not being used. You got people getting paid lots of money. You got bureaucrats getting paid a lot of money, and they're not doing anything. And then you have these people on the street who need mental health. They're mentally challenged. Okay, some of them on drugs, some of them just delusional, whatever. But something has to be done. Now, one of the reasons that these liberal district attorneys, I shouldn't say liberal, that's being kind to them, these left wing people, yeah, where's the money? Jamie Diaz, where is the money for this? But what some of these people are saying is that we can't arrest them because they have they're mentally challenged. Okay, then do something about it. They're letting him walk around the street now. Not to mention that you have criminals that have committed multiple crimes. Why? Because they're getting arrested and they're being let out the same day or the next day. There's no bail. It's just, and one guy, I don't know, he did 15 robberies. They don't care. Now, some people say jail is not a deterrent. Well, guess what? It's a deterrent to normal people. Normal people that commit a crime, they say, well, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't commit this crime again. Maybe I pay my dues to society and I'm going to go straight. That's a very optimistic approach that I have. But realistically, you have people that are committing crimes that have no fear. Matter of fact, one cop was quoted a few months ago, and it was very interesting. He said, these young guys, these young people, these young punks, or whatever you want to call it, these young criminals, are not afraid of the law. They're more afraid of the other gang members that are going to shoot them. So what they do, they carry guns to protect themselves. Now, many people on the left, again, this is not a political podcast, but I have to be honest. They want to do away with the Second Amendment. They say we shouldn't have guns. Well, guess what? More people have purchased firearms in the United States than anywhere in the world. We have more guns in this country. But the people that have the guns are the honest people. These are people that got it for defense. Occasionally, you have somebody that lets their kids take the gun, like the guy who shot those people in the school, the kid Crumbly. That happens. That's a mistake that happens. But very rarely. What happens is the criminals can get guns. Anybody that is a criminal knows where he can get a gun or she can get a gun. It's a street thing. You go on the street, you got people on the corner in the ghetto or any neighborhood, and you say, if they know you're not a cop and they know you're okay, they'll sell you a gun. You get a gun. No problem. You can get a gun in 10, 15 minutes. So why do you want to stop the Second Amendment? Let people that want to defend themselves. Now, there are people that have used their guns to defend themselves because they were in mortal danger. That is okay. And we're not going to get into the Kyle Rittenhouse case. That was a self-defense. The jury, the court found him innocent, and he defended himself. What is it? Eddie Gazzetti. The progressive DAs do not want to prosecute. Let the criminals do what they want. It's literally disgusting and disgraceful what's going on. That's true. No, but the question that I have, and I think we should discuss it, and anybody wants to chime in, okay, Dennis McKay, Vinny, they have nothing to lose by committing. That's right. They have nothing to lose. What do they have to lose? Oh, wait, here's a good one. By not prosecuting by the law is a violation of the Constitution to protect society. Plea bargaining has diluted accountability and restitution. They closed cases to raise stats for funding or non to deter enforcement. Jail should be placed away from public intervention. An 8-hour. This is what I want. I want people to chime in now we have a very good guest coming on. Joe Occhipinti is the executive director of the National Police Defense Foundation. I'm a member. Pamela is going to be a member. We have at least 85 to 100,000 members worldwide. Most of the members are in law enforcement. Okay. When we have our annual dinner, you have people from Costa Rica. You have people from Dominican Republic. You have various people. That belong to this organization. And what Joe does is he helps cops that get in trouble. And he's going to explain that. Some cops get jammed up. You know, when cops get in trouble, they got jammed up. Anybody else gets prosecuted. But in any event, Joe has a very good organ, and they have Operation Kids. They do a lot of things for kids. And a few years ago, when I joined this organization, I had tears in my eyes. They had a man. He was a lieutenant in South American country. I forgot. Joe will remind me. He got shot in the spine, and he was partially paralyzed. And this organization, Joe made this organization chip in and got a company to put up an electric wheelchair for this man. And I was so emotional about it because my father, before he died, my father was in a wheelchair himself. He had problems with diabetes and all that. So I could understand how that could happen. But Joe is wonderful. And Joe, let's bring Joe on, baby. Come on. By the way, Joe is very sick, and he's a trooper. He's coming on. He can't. It's hard to say no to Vinny Parco, right, Joe?
Anything for you, Vinny. Vinny, I appreciate the introduction. A little background. We started the National Police Defense Foundation back in 1995. It was an atmosphere similar to what we see today, where we found criminals would intentionally make fabricated allegations against law enforcement officers in order to insulate themselves from prosecution. In addition, there was an increase of armed assaults on the police. We see that today, the same thing. And in the last 26 years, the foundation has been successful in exposing many injustices against the police. In fact, we got 2 police officers who were charged with murder, looking at life imprisonment, and we were able to go to trial and prove that they took appropriate police action. We have one case now, which I think we should discuss because it's coming to trial in about a week or two, involving a detective, a canine officer in Atlantic City. Back in 2013, on June 15th, he was called to respond to one of the casinos in Atlantic City. The police were attempting to arrest the suspect, and he simply resisted. So it was protocol to call the canine officer, who responded. And he did what he had to do. He got the canine dog to affect and take down the suspect. Everything went according to protocol. Eventually, the dog did his job. But during the interim, this guy was high on drugs, took the dog, picked him up, threw him to the ground, and punched him in the nose. The dog, in order to grip himself, bit the suspect on his neck. It was
Good.
presented to a state grand jury where there was no bill. The grand jurors believed he took appropriate police action on a suspect who was high on drugs and resisted arrest. But what happened almost 5 years to the day, right before the statute of limitations, he was arrested by the FBI and charged with federal civil rights violations. Now, this is a landmark case now because it presents a question. If a canine officer directs his dog to take down a suspect, and now the suspect is bit, law enforcement officers, the canine officer, is subject to criminal prosecution. But what's outrageous about this case was he was already cleared by a state grand jury. We feel very optimistic that when it goes to trial, based on the evidence that was developed, and fortunately competent legal counsel, that he will win the case. These are the type of cases that we're seeing nationwide. I mean, we've exposed many of these injustices on national TV. We've been on 60 Minutes, Dateline, a whole host of them. And we're fortunate enough to have a great executive board. Our president is Michael Palladino, retired NYPD detective, who is also the president of the Detectives Union in New York. We have Phil Scala, a retired special agent with the FBI in New York. So we have law enforcement people on the board that can basically evaluate a case to see if the officer was justified in taking appropriate police action. That's just one aspect of what the foundation does. The other program is the Safe Cop program. We basically took what New York had, Cop Shot, and we went national, where we post a $10,000 reward for public information leading to the arrest and conviction of the suspect. Our reward in the last 20 some odd years has resulted in the arrest and conviction of several cop killers around the country. We've actually expanded it that if anyone makes a death threat online against a law enforcement officer, we will post a reward in hopes of getting a prosecution and criminal conviction. So that's kind of a sample of what we do at the foundation. And, we rely on law enforcement officers who join. And it's simple. You just go to our website, www.npdf.org. And we're fortunate enough to have great great attorneys, criminal as well as civil, that are on with the foundation, that have been extremely successful in helping us win at trial and actually prove that the allegations made against the officer were simply fabricated. And today, with the political atmosphere to indict every police officer, many prosecutors are inclined for political reasons to indict the officer.
Well, if I can jump, Joe, I want to thank you for all the work that you do. It's phenomenal work.
Well, we have one case. There are a lot of heroes out there. Right now, we're working with Special Agent Adam Daniels, who you may recall about 3 weeks ago was shot in the head in Nashville, Tennessee. If it wasn't for the quick action of the police to rush him to the hospital and do surgery, he would be dead. Believe it or not, he's now in physical therapy and he's walking. And he will be our Man of the Year on May 11th at our 2022 annual awards dinner at Russo's on the Bay in Howard Beach. In fact, we've established a fund for Agent Daniels. And in Nashville on February 20th, many of the country singers have donated their services to do a concert to help benefit the agent.
Great.
Much of this is it could be seen on our website.
I'd like to be at that fundraiser for him in Nashville, Tennessee. I'd like to cover it. I would
Well,
love
you
to.
know, this is the type of things we're cops for cops. When we feel an injustice is there, we're not intimidated by the criminal. We do what we have to do. And as I said, we've exceeded, we're nationwide and international, as you said. But by the way, we're up to 200,000 members
Oh,
and
I'm
supporters.
sorry.
200,000
Wow.
members?
I didn't realize that. That's great. Yeah, the dinners they have every year, Pam, are phenomenal. They have the great people there. They give awards to people in law enforcement that deserve it. It's people earn it. They don't just get an award for being there. They get an award. It's not a participation award. It's an award for doing something good.
A service award.
And by the way, just let you know, any of your viewers who are civilians are also eligible to become members. All you have to do is go online or call, it's easy, 888 SAFE COP, and you could become a member. And also we have organizational Safe Cop license plates in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. That shows your support for law enforcement.
So
and
when
to
you
stop the increased armed assaults on our police.
all right, now I want to ask you something, Joe. Pam, you could chime in on this. We have a district attorney in Manhattan that says that if a cop is arresting somebody and the guy resists arrest, he doesn't get arrested. He doesn't get charged with it.
You're talking about ADA. You're talking about the new district attorney,
Manhattan,
Brad.
right?
Right.
Well,
And you know something? It's a travesty by him coming in as the new district attorney for Manhattan. He is, it seems, with his policy, is very pro-crime and not anti-crime, which is in opposite to the new mayor, you know, former police officer, former police captain Eric Adams, who wants to be tough on crime and clean up the streets. So how is he supposed to do that when he has one of his so-called top cops as a district attorney in Manhattan, who's looking not even to prosecute cases?
Well, not only the Manhattan DA, now the other DAs, the Bronx and the Bronx DA, and probably the Brooklyn DA are going to do the same thing. They're going to follow suit. And
well, listen, you know, I come from a prosecutor background. I was in the DA's office for 3 years, and then I've been a criminal defense attorney for over 20 years. However, you know, we need the police, we need law and order. If you look at what happened over the last 2 years, and even before that, even before the pandemic, before you had all the so-called riots and the looting in New York during the pandemic, anytime across the country there's a verdict that majority of the people are not happy with, what are they doing? They're going out looting, robbing, burning everything down. That's not what happens. When you have a jury in this country and the way our jury system works, the jury decides based on the facts, based on the law that's given to them as directed by the judge. And that's what the verdict is. Whether you like it in the public or not, that is what we're supposed to abide by. You can't turn around and start ripping the streets up and burning your villages and towns down because you're not happy with the verdict. Shooting and killing police, turning over police cars. I mean, it's total anarchy. And if you have district attorneys across the country who are not going to stand up for what's right and stand up and support the police officers, then at this point, there is no law and order. Why do we need police? Why do we need court officers?
Look at San Francisco. Now, the San Francisco mayor actually said something about law and order there because they let it go. They let it go too far, right, Joe? They just let it go too far. That now they're walking back on it. Even the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, or I call her lightweight.
Lightfoot.
I call her lightweight. Even she said we need help. When Trump offered to help send troops in there, whatever. No, we don't want that. But now she wants it. It's unbelievable. Now you could you could go into a pharmacy or a store in LA, in San Francisco, as long as it's under $1,000. They will not arrest you. They will let you go. So what does that do? That opens the door for more crime.
Well, the door's been open for more crime over the last 2 years.
Right.
Talking about New York, when we had de Blasio, who was very light on crime. If you remember a couple months back during the pandemic, when you had the area right in front of City Hall, right, you come right over the other side of the Brooklyn Bridge. You had all the vagrants, the homeless people, everybody camped out in front of City Hall. Every one of those buildings, and those are my courthouses that I appear in, that I'm so proud to be a member of, to be an attorney going into those halls of justice. Every one of those buildings on the outside were demarked and defaced. And it took the longest time till it was actually cleaned up. And then you had the police standing by. They were told to stand down by de Blasio. There was
They
no
couldn't do their
arrest.
job.
They couldn't do their job. Their hands were tied. They actually stood across the street. They stood in front of 1 Center Street, directly across the street from the park there surrounding City Hall. And I said to them, like, well, what's going on? They're like, we were told not to do anything. They're not doing anything. Look what happened. How Soho was totally destroyed. Every one of those buildings and those stores were looted. Glass windows smashed. Everything again, graffiti. Nothing was done. A lot of the stores never reopened. And, a lot of people have the attitude, and we're talking about the people who actually supported the criminals and the looters. Their attitude is, well, the stores have insurance for that. They don't have insurance for something to that effect. I mean, a lot of the stores never even reopened.
But
You
Pamela,
go through Lower Manhattan,
well,
it's a
who pays
ghost
for
town.
the insurance? We do,
We
because they
do,
raise the
exactly, because
prices
they're
to
locking
cover their
everything up.
insurance premium, so we all pay for it.
Right.
Some people are really dumb. They think the insurance company is going to take care of everything. It's not true, and a lot of businesses have gone out of business because of this, and it's terrible. Now, Joe, this is a nationwide problem. Now, you're a former federal officer. You were in ICE, right?
Yes.
And
Well,
we're not going to even talk about the border.
that's another segment about what's going on the border. The only thing I could say is the National Police Defense Foundation joins all the police associations, particularly in New York, the NYPD line of organizations, who apparently will aggressively bring this case to court, and we support their endeavors. Clearly, one change, I think, in a positive nature, is the new mayor indicating he's instituting the anti-crime unit, and I think that's a positive thing.
Very positive.
And but now again, what happens when you have the increase of robbery arrests and weapon arrests, and they go to a DA who's inclined to immediately download a case to a misdemeanor. You may recall years ago, that was 100 Center Street, when they used to arraign. A lot of dispositions took place where you would charge an individual a felony, but there was always some kind of quasi policy that automatically downloaded it just to get the conviction. But
no, what happened was, if I may speak on that, Joe, is there would be charged. When I was in the DA's office, we would charge the felony and also the lesser included misdemeanor, so that if we did look to do a plea negotiation and to downgrade it, you're getting, instead of the felony, you're getting a misdemeanor conviction. If you're now just only going to charge someone with a misdemeanor, the only lowest that you can go would be a violation, which is nothing. If you give someone a violation, it's disorderly conduct or harassment. It's a violation, not a crime. So it's not a deterrent to crime.
And now what's going to happen is I foresee them giving desk appearance tickets if they capture a guy doing an armed robbery. Then he's not even going to spend the night either at the precinct or at Rikers.
I have to agree with you on that. I think that's going to happen, and that's terrible. I mean, first of all, if you commit a crime with a weapon, it's a felony right off the bat. And how could you not charge him with a felony? You got to charge him with a misdemeanor. It's ridiculous. The criminals are not afraid of the law. They flout the law.
You know what they may institute? I have a feeling they may institute the feds, and the Southern District is pretty good for this, where one day out of the week they're going to process everything through the on a federal charge. And I can tell you one thing: ATF has an outstanding special agent in charge, John DeVito, and that's what's going to send a strong message. You may recall during the crack epidemic, one day out of the week, if you got arrested by DEA and it went federal, you had a mandatory 10-year sentence.
Yeah.
Now, and if you were arrested by the local, you are out at arraignment. So, I'd like to see what the Justice Department's going to do. I have a feeling the Southern District doesn't support that kind of arrest and release. And I feel very optimistic this might be rectified either through the courts or maybe action by the U.S. Attorney's Office.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Listen, I have to go. I'm noticing I got 2% left on the battery.
All right.
Well, you got me to come on.
Joe, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I know you're homesick and you still came through. You're a trooper.
Right,
I will see you on May 11th. Night. I'll speak to you before that. And we would like to have Mike Palladino come on one week. Maybe
sure.
You could ask him to
Excellent.
For me.
Again, our website is www.npdf.org. And our toll-free number is 888-SAFE-COP.
I'm sure a lot of our viewers will join your organization.
Thank you. Have a
All
good
right,
night.
Thank you so much.
Joining.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. We're going to have more. Well, we'll have Mike Palladino be good because he's a retired detective. He was the president of the Detective Association. I've met him a few times at some of the dinners. Nice guy, sharp guy. As a lot of police officers have retired, and not to get him, not to waste their precious time on the job with the possibility of getting arrested themselves if they arrest somebody and technically commit a crime. So what most of my detectives that work for me on my company, they said, listen, 20 and out, because it's a law of diminishing returns after 20 years on the police department. You know that?
Well, the problem is it's also become a thankless job. When a police officer has to get up in the morning and either wonder if he's coming home that night to his family,
Yeah.
On 2 feet or in a body bag, or he's going to face charges down the line for actually doing his job, then what's the incentive to actually even to become a police officer anymore?
Well, a lot of police officers have said, I really regret being a police officer. I wish I would have went into a different profession. Now that's years ago. You didn't hear that. You heard cops were very proud of being a police officer. They were proud of doing their job. Now, with all this stuff with criminals being personified, Floyd, they put a statue of this guy who was a criminal who resisted arrest. The police officer that killed him, well, he really didn't kill him, but he contributed to his death. That's the way I like to say it. The guy was on fentanyl. He had all kinds of problems, but the officer stayed on his neck for 9 minutes. I don't know how this cop could do that, unless the cop has a mean streak, and some cops do. Not all police officers are good guys. Most 99.99% of them are, but you've got that 0.5% maybe that are just bad people, just like any. Now, I work for the State Board of Medicine. I was an investigator for the State Board of Medicine. Now, everybody thinks that a doctor, a physician, is, oh my God, he went to school for 8 years. He went this, that, and the other. But you know what? They could be smart in school. They could be smart in taking an exam. They could be smart in getting licensed. But some of them are stupid too. And how many people?
But that has to do with common sense. Listen, any one of us can be book smart. Doesn't mean you have common sense or street sense.
Well, how many doctors have committed malpractice? And there's no statistics of this. I mean, I'm sure there are somewhere, but how many doctors have committed malpractice and caused the deaths of people? Probably more than police officers have done.
Okay, but at the same time, right? But that's not intentional. No doctor goes into the operating theater and decides, I'm going to remove the woman's healthy breast instead of the wrong breast that's cancerous, or I'm going to go and commit malpractice today because I have nothing better to do. It's never intentional. Usually,
no, it's not
somewhere
intentional,
along the line, right? It's not intentional.
No, but I prosecuted doctors for that because they should have known better. Negligence. That's what it's negligence. That's what.
It's also it's right. The well, negligence is human error, if you're going to look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with cops. Sometimes they're negligent. That cop, Kim Potter, who shot the guy with the gun instead of a taser. I don't know how my heart bleeds for her. However, she did make a mistake. She did cause the death of a person who was trying to escape, who was resisting arrest. But we don't want to talk about that. That he was a criminal.
Okay,
What
but
we
then
want to
you have
talk
the
about
other.
is what she did, and what she did was
Right, but
wrong.
what about right? It was wrong what she did. Again, she didn't get up that morning and make a conscious decision that she is going to kill somebody that day.
No,
It was an error. Okay, there has to be a difference in the weight between. What did she hit him with?
a
The
manslaughter one
taser.
and
There's a
manslaughter two.
difference. Right, there's a difference in the weight of a taser compared to the
Yeah.
weight of a loaded weapon. So, and then again, we're Monday morning quarterbacks trying to determine what happened in Sunday's game. We weren't there. We're not there to know in that split second her decision. It's a life or death situation. I understand that when police officers are in that position, life or death, either it's going to be the perp's death or it's going to be his or her death as an officer. So they have to make that quick determination. And unfortunately, it's human error. But then they look into, well, her experience and her training, again, the weight of a taser compared to the weight of a loaded weapon. Why was one on one side? Why should it go to that side, her right side or the left side? All those factors come in. If you also look, just to bring up another case, and I don't remember the name of that officer, it was within the last 2 years. Remember, there was a female officer also out in the Midwest who, for whatever reason, thought that African American man was in her apartment, and she killed him. The man was eating ice cream in his own apartment because it was the same complex. And she walked into his apartment thinking it was hers, and she sees this black man in her house eating ice cream, and she shot him dead. And realizes afterwards, oh my God, I went into the wrong apartment. And she actually walked into somebody else's apartment. It was not her apartment.
Now,
She
was
was
she
convicted.
charged with that? What was she charged with on that?
Yes, she was convicted.
Yeah. I mean,
She was. I can't remember her name off the top of my head.
but the thing
Listen,
is,
I know these
the guy was
instances
not
are far and
armed.
few
The
between.
man was not armed. He had him. He was going to kill her with an ice cream cone. I mean, she should have. I think she overreacted, and I guess the punishment fit the crime. I guess.
Well, that's the whole thing too. As far as you look at training, then you had that young Asian cop who panicked and he had his finger on the trigger when he was coming down the staircase. It was in New York City, one of the boroughs. He was coming down the staircase in one of the city-owned buildings,
Now,
and he
excuse
got
me,
startled
Pam.
by somebody.
Dennis McCabe has a very important. You have to be a cop to know what they go through daily. He's right.
No, I agree. I'm not second guessing any police officer. I understand that. I'm an attorney. I never said I'm experienced. I cannot even think to put myself in the shoes of a police officer. I respect them for the job they do. They put their life on the line every single day to protect us. So I am not second guessing them at all on what they do. I would never want to be in that position of having to stare down the barrel of a gun that someone's pointing at me. And again, it's a life and death split second decision. So it's either going to be you or that person. And then you have to wonder, okay, well, if I am defending myself and I'm shooting the perp who's pointing a gun at me, now I have to wonder, am I facing either state or federal charges over the next couple of years? Because number one, I'm doing my job. And number two, in the line of duty, self-defense.
Yeah. Well, I was a state investigator. I worked with NYPD. I worked with Nassau PD. I worked with all the police departments in New York State, but I wasn't a street cop. I was more of a. I was more with the attorney general prosecuting cases, but I had to work with them, and I know what they feel. I talk to them. I work with them, but I didn't have to go out in the field and get shot at. I got shot at when I worked. I lived in the Bronx when I was growing up in Little Italy, but that's another story. So I got my street smarts the hard way, not that way. But
Okay, so now,
well, you live in the Bronx tale. You gotta, that's the whole. By the way, that movie we're doing, change the subject a second, is going to be a remake of the Bronx Tale, only 30 years later. That's what I found out today. It's,
Oh, really?
yeah, they're bringing on a lot of the people that were in the Bronx Tale as older gangsters in the new movie, and I'm so excited about working on it. And it's going to be crazy. It's going to be nuts. And
Nice.
yeah. Okay, we still got a few more minutes left.
Let
We
me,
got a
okay, I'm going to throw a topic at you since it's just you and I right now playing off of each other. What do you think? Bring back stop and frisk or don't bring it back?
bring back stop, but bring back stop and frisk with the proper training. Now, one of the complaints of the mostly black community was that they were targeting black men, young black men. But the problem is, a good street cop knows when a guy is bad. You know, he knows it. Now, what they did with stop and frisk, they changed it around a little bit. What they did was they tried to be a little bit more diplomatic. They would walk over to the guy and say, "Hey, are you carrying anything?" You know, something like that. And they wanted to see the
Okay, let me ask
reaction.
you something. If you're carrying a legal weapon, and an officer comes up to you and says, "Hello, good evening, how are you? Are you carrying anything?" What are you going to do? Turn around and say, "Yeah, this is what I got. I'm packing an Uzi underneath my jacket." Are you actually going to?
Well,
are you going to admit it?
well, they
You're
have
not
to look at the
admitting
body.
to it.
Listen, they have to look at the body language. They have to make a decision. And sometimes what they could do is you could negotiate. Say, "Listen, I know you're carrying. I'm not going to search you, but why don't we do something? Why don't you give me the gun and I won't arrest you? At least I take a gun off the street." That's one way of doing it.
Really, it's never happened. That's in fantasy world. Okay,
I
bottom
know,
line is
but
if
you
you
know
bring
what?
stop
Even
and
in
frisk back,
fantasy world, some people are stupid. I didn't use the word stupid. Some people, when they're confronted,
naive. Mhm.
they might say, "Okay, you know, um, I have gotten confessions from people on a lot of cases. I mean, I got confessions from people, money laundering and doing all kinds of stuff. And sometimes it's just how you talk to them. Sometimes you explain to them, well, maybe if you cooperate, you know, and uh, it's a good cop. I'll give you an example. My brother was an officer on the Triborough Bridges Authority.
DPTA,
Yeah,
right?
so he was law enforcement. He had a partner when he was on the Whitestone Bridge. He was a rookie. He was a rookie. He had a partner that could spot a stolen car a mile away. He had a knack for it. A knack for it. Then you have cops that could spot a narcotic deal, a drug dealer
Drug deal.
a mile away. There's some cops. Then you have some cops because I worked when I was working in the Manhattan DA's office once on a case. Um, yeah, Dennis says we need stop and frisk now, and I agree with you.
Dennis,
But
I agree with you.
I was working a case in the Manhattan DA's office, and all of a sudden, all these cops come walking in. They were all excited. What happened? They took about 20 guns off the street. They were anti-crime, but specializing in guns. These guys knew they could. I can look. I can tell when a guy's carrying. There's a way. There's a certain way when a man carries a gun. It's the way. It's the way he walks, the way he carries himself, and not all the time, but a lot. A lot of times you could now a good cop. Dennis McKay probably is going to say yes. A good cop can tell if this guy's carrying a piece. Now, I remember once I was in front of my uncle's store and I had my gun on me, and anti-crime came up. Said, "Excuse me, sir, you got a permit for that gun?" He knew I had a gun. The way, even though the way it was carrying it, and wait, we had it for years when I worked at home. The cops took many guns off the street. That's right. The
But I
more
had
guns
in
you take
Brooklyn
off
too.
the street, the more lives you save. Am I correct, Dennis?
Okay, when I was in the Brooklyn DA's office, I was assigned to gun grand jury, and all I did was deal with the undercovers and CPOP, SNU from Brooklyn, from the 7-2 precinct. I was dealing with the officers from the 7-5 precinct, and they all were using the stop and frisk back then, which was prevalent, and that's how you got so many guns off the street.
Well, again, you know, I heard I had a black guy was talking to me, very nice, very intelligent young man. He said, "Listen, you know, I'm an honest guy. I work and I think I really am insulted when a cop stops me and asks me, stop and frisk, because what do you got? And then some black people and even Hispanic, and even some white people get insulted. But a police officer
Okay,
should
but
be
if
able
you
to
look at it
talk to
this way,
them and say, "Listen, I'm doing my job. I'm just trying to get guns off the street." You know,
but if you have nothing, if you're not committing a crime and you don't have anything illegal on you, then you know something. Just go with the flow. The officer's doing his or her job. So what is? Would you like it better if they didn't do stop and frisk, like they're not doing stop and frisk right now? And look at how many more crimes are being committed. Point in fact, the
that's
young girl the other night. Wait, hold up.
very good.
The
That's
young
very
girl
good.
the other night, working in McDonald's or Burger King in the Bronx, right? Night shift. She was only on the job maybe 2 or 3 weeks. She had told her mother she was afraid of working there at night because there were so many homeless that was sleeping in front of the fast food restaurant she worked at. Like I said, it was either McDonald's or Burger King, it was one of the chains. She was totally afraid. The mother was like, "No, sweetheart, you got to go to work. You made a commitment. You got to be there." Okay, so now the place is robbed at gunpoint by some thug. Okay, she gave him the money from the register. He's walking out the door, and at the last minute, he turns around and shoots her in the stomach. She died en route to the hospital. The girl's like 17 or 19. That's it. That's done. So now it's not even that people are committing robberies at gunpoint. Now they're still shooting people. What's the point? So he made off with $100. That girl's life is worth nothing more than $100 that he made off with,
Yeah.
and they haven't even caught him yet.
No.
Life has no value to so many of these people. Get the guns off the
But
street.
what bothered me about
And I
that
don't care if
murder,
it's coming from me as a criminal defense attorney. The bottom line is this: the city is not safe. The streets have to be made safer. We have a new DA that was just elected. Bragg has to get on the program with Mayor Adams and all of the other district attorneys in all the 5 boroughs. And the bottom line is this: all of you should be working together to make the streets safer. Bring the business back to New York. People are coming out of quarantine. Reopen the businesses, and no one's going to want to do that if they don't feel that it's safe.
well, how can you open a business when people could come and smash your counter, take the jewelry, 100,000 to where
And that be prosecuted and only be prosecuted for misdemeanor. But well, nobody was injured. And then you know something, they're going to be arrested, and within under 24 hours, it's the revolving door of justice. They're going to be right back out again, and it's laughable. There is no deterrent to crime. And if you have a DA with a policy now in Manhattan whose attitude is, well, we're going to only charge you with a misdemeanor because if you come in and you do a gunpoint robbery and nobody's injured, just charging you with a misdemeanor.
Okay, let me ask you something, Pam. So I own a store. I have a legal gun. Okay, a guy comes in my store and he's brandishing a weapon which could kill me, and he's
Right.
robbing the store. Now I shoot him. I bet you 10 to 1 I'm going to get prosecuted for shooting him because there was no imminent danger. But the imminent danger was they had a knife to my throat or he had a
Right.
gun in his hand. How do I know if the gun's not loaded?
You don't know that, and you don't want to wait to find out till he pulls the trigger.
Yeah. And
So
you want
that's
to
the
go home
bottom
that
line.
night to your family.
Sure you do, because the jewelry is insured, but you want to be able to go home to your family.
Now, I'll give you an example. I mentioned about it last week. I wasn't in New York, it was another state, probably LA. A man came in the store, um, and it's owned by a husband and wife and a child, a son, and he robbed them. And when he was robbing them, he said, "I'm going to kill you." Well, the father had a gun in the back, came out and shot the guy. Now, he wasn't charged with it, but there is a prime example of self defense. No
And
two
what
ways
state was
about it.
that in?
What?
What state was that in?
I think it was California. I'm pretty sure it was, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, he defended himself. Now, then I have another situation where a guy was robbed at his home, 2 guys with guns. He shot one legally in the house. Then he chased the other one. The other one was running away, and he shot him in the back. That was a no-no. He got charged with
You
that.
can't. Okay, when you shoot somebody in the back, okay, there is no
And running
longer
away.
imminent danger. Mm-hmm.
There was
There's
no
the
imminent
issue.
danger there.
There's no reason. Okay, that's where you look at who's the aggressor. Once the perp turns around and looks to flee, Okay, then the imminency of the danger subsided. Now he's taking off. All right. If you then chase after him and shoot him in the back, you flip the script. You now just became the aggressor.
Yeah. I have a dear friend. I won't mention his name. I'll just say his nickname, Jojo Black. Okay. He was in the Bronx Tale. Matter of fact, he was in the first scene of the Bronx Tale. He hit the guy with a baseball bat, and Sonny shot him. Okay, that was his claim to fame. But in real life, what happened was he got into an argument. He and his wife got into an argument in a bar with a guy. Punched the wife. They had a fight. The guy said, "When you come outside, I'm going to kill you." He had a gun. My friend he went behind outside the rear entrance, came around and shot the guy in self-defense. But as the guy he shot him twice in the side. As the guy was running around in the heat of the moment, he shot him again. Didn't kill him, but shot him again. He got 3 to 9 years for that. And the judge said the reason why he gave you 3 to 9 is he was running away. You had no right to shoot him again. You had a right to shoot him self-defense. He said, I would have gave you 1 year in jail for the illegal gun, because it's an illegal gun. But I had to. So he did 3 years and he came out. Everybody stuck up for him. Everybody.
Well, that's what I'm trying to explain to you. Once the person starts fleeing and the back is towards you, okay, where are you in harm's way at that point? Where is the fear of death or risk to you? The person's taking off.
Yeah, you can't do it.
I'm saying circumstances change literally moment to moment. I know when I've done jury trials, both as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney, what I try to explain to the jury is picture like say a video or a movie, and you have to freeze everything frame by frame by frame, because if you look at the overall picture, there's just too much going on. But if you freeze frame everything, you're going to see how it changed, where at one point the perp, of course, is the aggressor. And that's one frame. But as you see it in slow motion, as he is turning to run away, and you just freeze it at that point, where's the imminence of harm?
But the problem is that you're in the heat of the moment, you're so angry, you're aggravated, that you've been robbed, that you don't think that way. You act illegal, according to what you said, and I agree with you.
That's the whole point. Right, that's the whole point.
I'll give you another example, Pam.
That's what happened. Okay, I'm just going to run over you for a second. Kyle Rittenhouse went out there with a weapon to so-called protect family property, okay, for rioting and looting. Okay, the bottom line is you don't use deadly force to protect property. The property is insured. I'm not even discussing what happened with him with the verdict. I'm just saying overall, what he originally said was the reason why mommy drove him across state lines with his loaded weapon was he wanted to protect the family business. Let
me interrupt you. He did not go across state lines. The gun was in the town. His uncle had the gun. He did not go across state lines. The gun, and it was legal. He was 17 years old. In that state, he's allowed to have a gun. The gun was in the family's home. What?
Right, but he didn't live in that state. Mommy drove him across.
His family lives there, and it's a 5-minute walk. But that's irrelevant. That was not. He wasn't charged with that.
Right. That's irrelevant. But the bottom line is this: from what he said was that he was on the property, or he was around there with the loaded weapon, because he wanted to protect the family property from any looting, rioting, and burning. But you don't use deadly force to protect property. You use deadly force to protect yourself.
He was attacked. The man attacked him with a what do you call it? A scooter. That thing weighs about 10. With one shot, I could kill you with that. And the other guy had a gun, so he did defend him, and they attacked him. He didn't come after them. That's why he was acquitted.
I know, but I'm saying, but initially, I'm not talking about what happened. Of course, yes, he was acquitted of self-defense. But initially, why he was there? If you talk about why was he there? What was the motive? Was that he was there
I'll tell you the motive, and I'm dealing with facts now. The fact is, he's an emergency medical technician. He's a volunteer firefighter. He's a volunteer cop. He's a volunteer. He's a volunteer do-gooder. Okay, so he saw that they were defacing property. He was helping out the property owners. Now, his intentions were good, but when they saw him with a rifle, they attacked him. Now, an argument could be made that if he didn't have the gun, they might not have attacked him. Maybe. Okay. But the fact remains that's why he was acquitted. They attacked him. I would honestly say maybe he shouldn't have been there. Maybe he shouldn't have, got involved. His life would change drastically because of that. I think if he,
he was invited to Mar-a-Lago.
well, now he's a hero because the right wing, they love him because he's a
I know he's a poster child. He's a poster child for the conservative.
But you know what? I think if he had to do it over again, he wouldn't have carried I think he would have said, maybe I shouldn't have been there. That's what I would have said.
Stayed home and played video games.
Well, I don't know. He
Listen,
helped.
Okay, Vinny, we're both parents. You and I are both parents. Okay. Yeah. Our children, I speak for my son, is a do-gooder. Your children are do-gooders. That doesn't mean you walk out of the house and just decide to walk in the middle of riots and all the other insanity that was going on in Manhattan and decide what are you going to do in the middle of all of that?
I would have to say
the police weren't even doing anything. So what are you going to do as a volunteer do-gooder? You're putting yourself in harm's way.
Well, what about? All right, let me ask you something. And I love this dialogue. This is great. This is fantastic. What about the guy that pulled this driver, this airline pilot? His plane fell in front of a speeding train, and they ran and they grabbed him and they brought him out and they saved his life. Okay.
That was insane. Did you see that train came through and the rest of the plane just like exploded to smithereens?
30 seconds, he would have been dead. Okay. Now, here's the problem. They did a very good thing. However, if they didn't get him out in time and they would have got killed, people would have said, oh, what idiots they were for doing that. So it's who's the hero and who's the goat in these situations? This Kyle Rittenhouse, people are gonna be talking about it for the next 10 years. And no matter what side are you on, it's an interesting situation. And I'm sure after he killed these people, I'm sure he didn't feel good about it. I don't care who he was. Even a cop who killed somebody in the line of duty does not feel good about it.
No, they don't. They go through counseling. They're off for a couple of weeks. They have to go. They have PTSD. Of course, they have to go through grief counseling. Nobody goes to work, shoots somebody, and gets up the next morning like it's just a regular day at work. It's not.
No, unless you're a psychopath. Unless you're a psychopath. Unless you're a
sociopath.
A sociopath, psychopath, a path, whatever path it is. Well, we got no time left. I want to thank. You're my partner, so I don't want to thank you. I just love being with you. I want to thank Joe, and I thank all the people that listened tonight. And if anybody wants to join that organization, it's a great organization. They have a lot of events over the years. They're really, really good people, and I'm sure a lot of the people that listen in might think about joining. And by the way, I got the Patsy shirt on. Well, hey Anthony, what happened to our little thing? The my daughter's company and our advertisers. And okay, good.
Oh, look, there's all his books: Mafia, Double Cross, Investigations After Dark, and From the Detective's Kitchen. Okay, well, let me plug myself since you're plugging yourself here. Okay,
well, why don't you've got to put your stuff up too?
I do. Well, let me just make an announcement. This Saturday at 5 p.m., I'm going to be the host of a comedy show down at Greenwich Village Comedy Club. I'm hosting, and Evan Weiss is going to be on stage, and a whole lot of other comedians. Please get your tickets. $20.76 starts at 5 p.m., and you're going to have a raucous, wonderful, fun evening.
I used to do comedy at that club for about 3 months. I was there, not every night. I was there like twice a week. The guy, the Irish guy owns it, right? Patrick or something. An Irish.
I don't know. I just did with the booking.
Well, one day I was doing a show, and my priest friend, Father Lou, came to visit in plain clothes, and I happened to slip and say, "Oh, Father he's a priest. Every comedian came on and destroyed him. He loved every minute. When you sit in the front, you know you're going to be abused. It's always, you don't sit in the front unless you want to be abused. And he loved every minute of it. So I hope everybody comes to see you Saturday at the Village Club. I'm going to probably be there. The Greenwich Village. It's a nice place. It's a nice club. It's intimate, nice. It's not huge. It's nice, and the people there are very nice. I'll see you there, and we'll see you next week.
I want to thank everybody for watching and tuning in tonight. If you didn't catch us tonight live, both Vinny and I are going to be posting the links on Facebook and YouTube so you can watch the show. Vinny, hopefully you and I will be there in Nashville at this award show, and then
I have to cover it for my my press credentials for the NYPD.
Right, and then we have to go to the dinner. Then we have to go to the dinner.
Of course,
support Joe's organization.
I always wanted to go to Nashville. I always wanted to go there.
Yeah, you just want to get a pair of cowboy boots. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony, you're the best.
Thanks, Anthony.